Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And welcome to Forgotten Cinema, a show where we take a look at films that seem to be forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run.
Butler, that is not what we're doing this episode. We are interviewing this episode.
Well, we don't have an interview one.
Different. That's fine. Well, this is how it's going to start now. Right. We are not alone, and we are not talking about a movie. We are joined by Nicholas Keating Casbarro from who's the author of the book Vitalerium, Descent into the Void. I can't remember. This is actually completely something different for us. We've done interviews before, but never just solely on another medium, which is cool because Mike and I, we are learned men and we like to read. So, but I want to cede the floor to Nick a little bit to kind of let us know, just kind of give us a little self intro, and then we'll get right into the book because Mike and I read it. Yes, we did read it, and we have a lot of questions. And we want to discover some secrets that maybe we'll pull some secrets in terms of what the future holds. Mike, I don't know, but Nick, please, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks again for having me, guys. Appreciate it a lot. I'm sorry you guys got hit with all that snow. I'm from New England originally, so I do know what that's like. Yeah, sorry, because there's no snow down here in Florida. So I guess to start, I never really anticipated becoming an author. This was kind of a weird roundabout journey to get to this point. I started writing when I was working at the last company that I was working for, and I was on a plane 3 to 5 days a week. And I was traveling to different burn units all across the country to basically consult with them on new technologies to help patients who are just grievously injured. And in the process of doing so, I realized I had basically beaten Netflix. You spend all that time in the air, you basically run out of things to watch. So about 6 months into this position, I'm getting ready to board a flight, and it's from Miami to Hawaii. And that is a long flight. And I'm downloading episodes to a show that I don't want to watch. I'm just trying to find ways to pass the time. And I'd had a few ideas. There was a lot going on during that time. This is like right after COVID. And so, just kind of getting back out into the world. There was a lot of stuff going on in the news. There were, just a lot of things that I could pull from, I guess, current events. And I've been a lifelong sci-fi fan, and it just made sense for me to write that. And I had a few ideas that I guess I'd had since I was in high school. Some were more recent, and mixed that with everything that was going on. I said, all right, well, let's give this a shot. So I got on the plane and I started writing, and I didn't stop until I landed. And by the time I actually got off the plane, I was finishing up chapter 4. So I was like, oh my God, nice. It just poured out of me at that point. Now, mind you, those first 4 chapters were very rough. That was the first thing I had written in like over a decade that wasn't a professional email. And so that's where Vitalerium kind of came from. And Vitalerium it's a far future space odyssey. You essentially follow humanity after we become multiplanetary. It's all thanks to this discovery of an exotic material that allows for faster than light travel. It basically ends up powering an Alcubierre drive, which is Miguel Alcubierre is a physicist. And back in the 90s, he wrote a paper describing a way to basically surpass the universal speed limit by condensing space in front of you and elongating it behind you. And this was kind of my answer to that. And funny enough, there are actually physicists out there now. There's a guy by the name of Harold White who's talking about negative vacuum energy density as being the answer to that exotic material to potentially allow for faster than light travel, which is kind of interesting. So, it's stuff that's even being talked about now. Either way, we colonize new planets, we explore the cosmos. Fast forward 700 years, you get dropped into the front seat of your antagonist, Roman Matthews, who is by all means a morally gray protagonist. At best, he's a morally gray protagonist. He's very rough around the edges. He's basically doing odd jobs for local gangs when you first meet him as an adult. He's a lost soul. He's kind of floating through life, lost his purpose. And in the process of doing the work that he does, he has this near-death experience, which embroils him in a massive conspiracy that has the authoritarian government of his planet hunting him. And so he's got to band together with a motley crew, both in the underworld and in the public eye, to be able to survive that ordeal. And that's just book one. I've got 7 planned with my publisher. I've already begun branching out into comics. And I don't plan on stopping there either.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. I guess you said you're obviously a big fan of sci-fi, and when the idea for the book popped into your head, was it, because Mike and I always have this discussion when we're talking about films, what was first for you, plot or characters? Like, what kind of pulled you into, the impetus to tell this story? Was it just the character of Roman, if you even had that idea, or was it just the universe and the plot and the story that you were kind of thinking about?
It was very conceptual at first. And so I think I start the book with a history. I think I call it the history of the final bloody frontier in the book. And I don't know, maybe it stemmed from, I've always wanted to be able to, jump on a spaceship and go and explore another planet. And I wanted to write a way for us to be able to get there. And so when I started writing that, it kind of spiraled into like, well, what does it look like far future? Where do we go from there? And so once I had built that concept, then the characters started coming to me. I think I realized right after I got off that flight, like, I'm enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Maybe I should, start storyboarding a little bit, create a plan. And I started with just the themes that I wanted to talk about, just kind of what I wanted to discuss within the flow of the book. And from there, I went to, okay, well, who are the factions? Who are the main players? And then that went to the characters, and then I started making the characters. I based a number of the characters off people that I know personally or have met and, made an impression on me. I feel like that kind of adds an extra breath of life into the character, because I sometimes I model it after their personality. Sometimes it's just their likeness, and that's enough for me to imagine the character. And I know what they would do. I've if it's their personality I'm modeling it after, I know what they would do in certain situations. I've been there. I've seen it. And so that once again, it just kind of, it makes it a little bit more, just a touch more real for the reader. So
is Roman based on somebody you know?
No, actually, Roman was one of the characters that is not based on anyone I know. No, he is.
I was going to say, he's pretty rough. I don't know.
He's pretty rough. He's a little rougher than most of my friends. But one of the characters, here's a funny little backstory. One of the characters, Braxton Hughes, is based on a good friend of mine. His name is Mike. And Mike actually won that character in a golf bet. Believe it or not. So I was, we were out on the course, and we had done maybe, 2 holes. I was feeling very confident that day. I'm not a good golf player at all. So
me neither. Don't worry about it. You're good.
So he proposes this bet because I'm ahead. And he says, well, I'm going to come back. And if I come back, I get to be in your book, and I get to choose everything about that character. I said, you get 2 attributes. You get to choose 2 attributes. He goes, fine, I'll take it. And then he kicks my ass on the back 9. And so he's a ball buster. He's one of my best friends, but he is a ball buster through and through. So he goes, okay, nice. He has to not be able to take care of houseplants and he hates the sound of Velcro. And I was like, you motherfucker. But guess what? I don't know if you caught it, but in one of the chapters, he walks past a house plant that's on the space station in his quarters that is just withering and dying. And one of his other crewmates actually mentioned something to him, like, "Hey, water your plant that I gave you." And he's like, "Shit." Yeah,
I missed that part. I missed that one.
So I fit it in there somehow.
Did he come up with those two attributes like on the spot too? Like
yes.
That was like he just as he was playing, he's like, I gotta get these in there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but it was perfect because that's very much his personality. You know, he's boisterous. He likes to ball bust and he likes to have fun.
Yeah. So other than Braxton, were there any other characters that surprised you while you were writing the story? Like that maybe you thought were going to go one way and as you were writing it, you're like, no, wait, I think it's going to go this way with them.
Yes. I'd say two characters. Well, number one, the antagonist. And you're not really going to get to see the way that it's going until book 2, because things are going to shift a little bit,
right?
Unexpectedly. And that was something that had developed over, the course of the 2 years that I was writing this book and planning and building the universe. And I realized that what I was writing was more than one book pretty early on, because even what I had planned out to be one book, I got about a quarter of the way through of my chapter breakdown, and I was already 150 pages into the book, and I was like, "Oh man, there's no way this is one book." And then more as you write, more ideas come to you. You start thinking of different ways to position things and better ways to position things. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and changed things throughout the process. It's a very fluid process, and if you allow it to be like that, then hopefully the outcome is a fun read.
Right.
Yeah, it's it's always that adage, writing is rewriting. You're always it's always happening. So yeah, no, absolutely. Speaking of that though, like what was the hardest part for you in terms of just in those 2 years? Where did you what were some of the major obstacles that you had to overcome within the story of the book?
There was definitely some downtime in like creating certain parts of the book. And, everyone wants to call it writer's block, but what I kind of figured out, pure luck, to be honest with you. Anytime I realized that the writing was getting slow, it was because I hadn't really defined the world enough. Like I hadn't built or expounded upon something enough for me to be able to see it. Because when I'm writing, I'm seeing it in my head like it's a movie going by, and I'm just describing what I'm thinking about. So what I realized was that if I took the time to kind of go back to the storyboard and say, all right, I'm going to flesh out this concept. All right, what other technologies are there in this future world that I haven't thought of or that I haven't considered yet? Let's do that. I'd flesh some things out and take a day. And then by the time I got back to the page, it would start flowing again. So that was one, it was just, this is the first book I've ever written. And so it was definitely a learning process throughout. I kind of I dove in head first, but that's I guess how I do things.
Way to go. No, you got to do it. Absolutely. No. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it kind of goes with what you're saying with universe building. So I was like a year ago, maybe less. There was an article or a YouTube video about like universe building, never stop building your universe, and how everyone should do it no matter what you do. If you play D&D, if you're a creative writer, if you're just someone who has dreams and a dream journal, if you're an actor, a director, a writer, just to never stop building that universe. It like you could go off and branch, but always come back to something. Do you think that's something someone should do? Like, after building out a whole universe, do you agree? Just keep on going, just keep on building out. Or are you like, maybe I did this, but maybe move on to other things? Or do you have any advice for somebody who might be, I want to stick to this universe, like something that you learned what writing this, and you have planned 7 more books and comic books and who knows what advice would you give to somebody who's like, I want to stick with this universe for like the rest of I really want to build this out?
Oh, then you definitely need to keep building. Like all the time. If you can't even picture what you're trying to describe in your mind's eye, how are you going to expect a reader to be able to imagine it to the same detail? I mean, that's
right.
That you need to know not just, all right, the characters. You need it can't just be about the characters. Characters are super important because they're what people are going to relate to, right? But the world they're in gives you the full scope of all of the things that they have at their disposal, what life is like on that planet. When I built this storyboard, there are 7 colonized planets in this Vitalerium universe that I built. I have entire pages of notes and drawings and details on what does that planet look like? How many people live on that planet? What are its main exports that maybe shape society? What is society like? What is the government structure? How many moons does it have? Are there civilization? Are part of the populace living on that moon? Literally everything, like down to the concepts. Every story, every character that I have, I've written a backstory for. And once
That's
again.
awesome, yeah.
To make sure that you're writing the characters well and you're defining them well and they're distinguishable characters between, some of the other people you may be writing about, you need to know where they came from. That kind of forms who they are. So every single character, if they have a speaking role that is, if they appear for 2 pages in that book and they have a speaking role, I've written a backstory on them and what they may or may not represent in the themes of the book. So once again, awesome. it comes down to making sure that you are, and that's all part of the world building because the characters are within the world. That's part of it. But you need to know exactly the type of environment that they're in, so that you can direct them appropriately in that world.
I'm curious, Nick, if this is something you discovered or, do you have any influences, other writers or books that you've read that kind of led you down that way? Or is this just something, like you said, you discovered in the 2 years of writing?
Yeah, a lot of what I discovered as far as, this type of stuff was just, kind of some pro tips I picked up along the way.
Sure.
I never really got into, kind of the backstory of anyone's writing or their goals. I definitely did read a lot. Probably my biggest influence was Frank Herbert in his work, like the Dune series. I read the first Dune book when I was like 13, 14. It was my father's copy, and he had handed that down to me. And I read that. And funny enough, I write in the omniscient perspective, kind of similar to the way that he writes.
Yeah.
Which I find there are strengths to it. That was just kind of the way that I gravitated. In terms of more recent literature, I don't read a whole lot of recent literature. I kind of keep my roots in a lot of the dystopian classics, like your Isaac Asimov's. I think he packs a lot of power into some of his short stories in a way that I think his short stories are unmatched. In terms of, read the story, The Final Question by Isaac Asimov. There's more power in 14 pages than most authors have in entire books. It's really impressive. His foresight is unmatched. That's why I've always liked sci-fi. Sci-fi authors' ability to kind of forecast what a future society or a future technology could look like. Some of these guys, Aldous Huxley, George Orwell, like it's pretty shocking how right they were about a lot of things.
Yep.
And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of influences, but I also wanted to make sure that I was kind of finding my own writing style in the process as well. which is why I didn't read a whole lot of like contemporary sci-fi literature reading up to my writing. That, and I was just busy with work before that. But
Right.
Stephen King wrote that book on writing. It's like his
Yeah, it's a
memoir
good book.
slash.
Yeah, I read it.
It is good. It's very good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's the most non-pretentious one out there. It's just like, it's just very straightforward. Like it was good. It's a good book. It's to your point, it doesn't make you want to write like him, but it's just impressive the way he, like when you learn about how he puts his stories together, how he wrote his first 2 books, you're just like, dear Lord, Stephen.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
And, but he basically said like, look, I read a couple books by this guy, and for a while I wrote like this guy. And then I read a couple books by that guy, and then for a while I wrote like him. And then, eventually he said, like, I kind of found my own voice through that. And I was like, well, I'm just going to dive in. I'm just going to dive in and see where this goes and edit the absolute hell out of it until it sounds like my voice, or sounds like my writing style. Right. And so that's the way I did it.
Real question. Are you a fan of the Dune movies?
Yeah. I like that. You talk about the new ones, right?
The new ones.
Have you seen the old one?
Yes.
It's the montages that they throw in there. Hilarious. It's rough. It's rough. But that's the thing. I mean, when it was made, I'm sure the montages were a popular thing. But also, they tried to squash what Denis Villeneuve necessarily turned into 2 movies. They tried to put it into 1. So I can see how that could have gone wrong.
So what's interesting is like the way you said it, like they relate to like movies. Michael Mann has a great quote when he was filming Collateral, and he's like, this is like by this time he's already a prolific director, and he said, I've never watched anyone else direct. I don't know how to direct, but the way I direct, if this could be the wrong way to direct, but it's all I know, because he had art just picked it up and did his own thing, and he's Michael Mann. And when you watch a Michael Mann movie, to your point, Nick, it's like, that's your writing. That's a Michael Mann movie. It's a Michael Mann movie because he did his own thing. And I think that's really important with anybody who works on any kind of art.
And that's a cool thing when you can watch a movie and immediately be like, oh, that's him. Like you watch you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie. If no one told you that was a Quentin Tarantino movie and you had seen a few before, you'd be like, this is him, isn't it? Like you kind of know. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the style is and the style only builds the more you kind of flex that muscle. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. You look at Quentin Tarantino, everyone loves all his movies, but lately they're like becoming more and more acclaimed. So it's like they love the whole thing. By the time you're done with the Vitalerium series, you could be looking at a Pulitzer or something. Who knows?
Very nice.
The more you go, the more acclaimed you get.
Hey, I mean, I'll take it if someone wants to give it to me, but we'll just have to see how that develops down the road.
So you say you're branching out into comic books, and then you said maybe more. Do you have like plans on other multimedia in terms of this universe, in terms of where you're going?
Oh, absolutely. I have absolutely unrealistic plans of what I plan to turn this into.
That's how you do it. You never know when those unrealistic plans turn realistic.
We'll see. I'm taking baby steps toward everything. Like right now, one of the things that I'm working on this year is getting a short animated film made,
awesome.
Which much more expensive than I had anticipated. And I want to go like with an actual animator, get the style right and do all that. I don't want to do the whole AI thing because yes, it would be a lot cheaper, but what experience did I get from that? That will be kind of use for marketing and definitely proof of concept. I want to see what it would look like to bring one of the chapters of my book to life in full color.
Okay. I was going to say, is that a Roman story or is it a spinoff? Okay.
It's probably going to be a Roman story. Yeah.
Within the book. Okay.
I'm between 2 different chapters. And it's for good reason. One, I think would be a good starting place for anyone to kind of jump in and dip their toe in and say, like, what is this about? And the other one is just something that's going to be a little bit different, a little more out there. It leaves room to add a little bit of mystery. Mm-hmm. So you guys have read the book, and so I'll tell you. So my first idea is chapter 6, which is, I think it's titled Mohawk Bang Bang. It's when he's turning in the mission with Tarly.
Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then the second one is immediately after his accident as he's getting back into the city, which is where he first meets Monique.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one too. Yeah.
And that was my second idea. So we'll have to see how that develops. I have found a developer that I plan to work with. And now it's just, getting it done, fine tuning, and, kind of getting everything perfect. So
Chapter 6 would be great to see that scene in an animated form. Like, watch what he's doing. Like, that'd be really cool. You wrote it really descriptive. Like, you could tell what he's doing. That'd be awesome to see on the screen.
I think so too. I think that is also going to be a more expensive chapter.
Oh, for sure, yes.
So hence, I'm weighing my options here, but I will definitely get that done this year. I've also begun partnering with a few. I've been going to a lot of Comic-Cons lately because you have to, at the beginning I was like, well, how am I going to get people to hear about this? How am I going to build this grassroots following? How am I going to get the word out, right? So I started going to Comic-Cons because I figured, hey, well, there's got to be a lot of sci-fi crossover at these things. And luckily I was right, because I went to about 20 Comic-Cons last year, and there was a ton of people who were interested in something new like this, something that was a little bit more fresh, something that was budding. And I met a lot of people at these conventions, and I ended up meeting a lot of cosplayers, some of whom, you go to some of these conventions, they have their own booth where they're promoting, their kind of business. So I made friends with a few, and I ended up partnering with a couple of them who made movie quality costumes for a couple of the characters. And so
nice.
Shout out to Shanice Foster. She's Luxty's Cosplay, and she made an impeccable Monique costume, like soldered her own LEDs, like painted armor and everything. It was unbelievable. And actually, if you go to my Instagram, like, you can see videos of her in costume. She did an unbelievable job. She won a few cosplay competitions in that costume. And so that turned into what ended up turning into, like, hey, can you just promote this on social media? Turned into like this whole kind of guerrilla marketing thing that I was working. Yeah, but I would love to see this down the line as a video game. I would love to see this as probably, I would imagine, a streaming series, because if we're including the full scope of the 7-book series, it's going to be a little bit long for a movie.
Oh yeah, there's a whole universe there.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you video game, because it's like a lot of the book reminded me of like a more, like, not that it wasn't rated M, it was rated M, but a more rated M, like Mass Effect. If you've ever played those games, it was very massive. And I'm a massive Mass Effect fan, so I was like, this is very Mass Effect.
It's one of my favorite games. 100%.
I love Mass Effect. Yes.
Yeah. I'm a big Mass Effect fan. Yeah.
Do you get that reference a lot from other people? The Mass Effect reference. Yeah.
Yeah. When you go to a lot of these conventions, you run into a lot of people who are big gamers. And anytime someone comes to my booth and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, do you play video games? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, take the political intrigue and the interstellar travel of Mass Effect. Take the gritty, just rough vision, like street level vision of the future from Cyberpunk 2077. And take the rough around the edges protagonist from The Witcher and mash all those together, and you've got Vitalerium. And they're like, I'll take 2.
That's awesome.
Are you surprised by any specific reactions to the book that you maybe didn't consider when a reader comes up to you and says, "Oh, I really enjoyed this part, or this part spoke to me"? Are any of those reactions, did they surprise you? Because that's not what you intended, maybe?
As far as unexpected reactions, I have been, extremely pleasantly surprised with the feedback that I've gotten since starting this, because like I said, this is the first book I've ever written, and I put a ton of effort into it. It took me 2 years to write it, build the universe, and kind of create a plan for the upcoming books. And then that's not even including the publishing process. The publishing took another 10 months. So it was a long effort that I put into it, and to now be seeing people come back up to me. I've been doing this for a year now, kind of marketing it. See people come back up to me and be like, "Hey, when is book 2 coming out? That was awesome." That's just an unbelievable feeling. I really wasn't sure. At one point, I was writing the book. I was like, "Look, if this sits in a drawer, fine. If anything, it's been cathartic." And to kind of see what it's snowballed into, it's just a really rewarding kind of experience.
Awesome. Nick, hold that thought. Yeah, I got to bounce and fix my furnace, so the guy's here. But I'm sorry, I'm leaving early. I apologize. Life, you know how it is. It was great to meet you. Talk with Mike. Finish up, please. Ask the questions, Mike. Yeah, let's connect after or whatnot. But thank you so much, Nick. Okay.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Sorry, I got to get some heat in this house.
So we're a movie podcast, as you know. So I got to ask, who is your dream casting choice for Roman? If you infinite budget, you could have anybody, or you could go smaller and unknown that you just think really would do a really good job.
Infinite budget. Henry
Infinite
Cavill.
budget, and they have to say yes.
Henry
Geralt
Cavill
himself. There we go. Listen, He's big on sci-fi. You give him that book, he might say yes. He's Geralt. He's in the upcoming Star Citizen game. He's starring in it. He's in Warhammer. He's Highlander now. He's Superman. This dude is, and I think his dream role, he said, was to be a Jedi. So
that's pretty awesome. Hey,
you got him in the bag, man. I don't even think that's dream casting.
We'll see. You'd have to read it first. We have to get it to him.
That's awesome. Do you have any other people you'd like Monique or Jarek or anybody else that you think, that would be a good that'd be good casting?
It's funny. I actually, for every single character that's not based on someone that I know personally, I picked out an actor and said all right, I'm going to imagine this actor as that person, just so I could imagine it in my head.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I definitely have a character for everyone. So for Xeris, I thought, do you know who Rufus Sewell is?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. That's who I imagined as Xeris. One of the characters, Darak, is based, I based his likeness on stunt actor and producer Levon Panic. Who's a good friend of mine. We went to school up in Boston together.
Oh, cool.
And I told him, right before I had finished the book, I was like, "Hey, I'm starting to do some graphic design for this. I kind of imagined you as I was writing this character. Would you be all right if I used your likeness for this?" And he said, "You can use my likeness, but when we turn this into something real, you better cast me as that role." I was like, "All right, hey, deal."
There you go. It's on camera now. Now you can't go back.
Yeah, exactly. So that was so we got a handshake agreement on that for whenever we take it to the next level. We'll see.
I just looked up Rufus Sewell, and I can see where you're going with that. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen him before. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that you do all that. It's really neat.
Yeah, and again, it's the best way for me to kind of just picture it in full color as I'm creating the story, as I'm writing it. It helps to have a reference point.
Yes. Field and I talk all the time in our episodes, especially episodes that are fantasy, or even you had talked off air before we started recording that we did the Mystery Men episode. Even a world building, something like that, where it's like superheroes, but kind of in a real world ish kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like how important it is to give actors that, and like you have already the thing to give actors so that they play the characters correctly. Because there's so often when you build these massive worlds, a lot of our critiques, I don't know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. When Field and I watch movies, is this actor clearly wasn't given their material of like where their characters may be headed after the movie or where they were before. And that is, I think, super important for a director to give characters or actors for so many different kind of movies. And the fact that you already did that for everybody that has, you said, more than 2 pages of dialogue, that's awesome. I think that's exactly what we speak to on the show for like what good writing is.
Oh, it defines their motives, right? If people, if you know what someone's endpoint is, you know where they came from, you know how they're going to try and get to their endpoint.
Yes, the story's clearly like veers sci-fi big time. It's the sci-fi book, but have you found like other groups of readers also kind of getting into it? Like, hey, this isn't normally my thing, but this is pretty good. I like this.
Yeah, I feel like fantasy fans, like fantasy readers, have found a lot of I guess things that they can gravitate toward in the story. Sci-fi is kind of a broad term, right? I mean, because you could write a sci-fi that's in an alternate universe that is in today's time, and it's just slightly
Man in the
different.
High Castle, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Black Mirror does a lot of things like that, you know? And so when you're pushing things out this far into the future, you know, what's the term? Any sufficient magic is, any sufficient technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're going that far out, I have to extrapolate a lot. Like, I'm not a fortune teller. And I'm certainly not a physicist, although I do my research. You know, I try and at least ground it in real science, and then, you know, try and expound from there. But yeah, there's some pretty fantastical elements of this future in the Vitalerium series that So it kind of surprised me too, because, you know, when you're out at these conventions and you're meeting people, and you say, hey, you know, do you like sci-fi? And a lot of people, no, I'm more fantasy. And then they'll walk by. But then I've had some people who have bought the book, and I've seen, you know, like later in the year, and they're like, hey, I actually liked that. And that's kind of cool too. Just being able to appeal to multiple different, you know, kind of groups of readers. I would say that's probably the big one. That's probably where the crossover seems to occur.
That's pretty cool, because I also feel like a lot of the times, like fantasy nerds and sci-fi nerds are sometimes at war with each other. Like I'm a big sci-fi guy, but my brother's more into fantasy, and like he's like, I can't stand your sci-fi crap sometimes, and I'm just like,
I'm trying to bring the two worlds together. Yeah. I'm brokering the peace agreement.
Obviously, there's a lot of like alien stuff in this as well, like extraterrestrial kind of vibes going on. Did you pull any of that from? Because I'm a big alien guy as well, like conspiracy stuff and alien stuff. Like, did you pull anything from, like, let's say, like the ancient aliens hypothesis, or, you know, the Fermi paradox, or anything like that when you were trying to talk on? Because I think you handled them in a very interesting way in this novel. Was any of that part of your inspiration as well?
Yeah, we could have a whole nother podcast just on that kind of stuff. Yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
I don't want to give away too much, because, like I said, you definitely hint at stuff. It's coming for that. Yeah. There's a lot more books to come. We'll just say that. And I mentioned earlier that I write in the omniscient perspective, like Frank Herbert does. Mm-hmm. And I kind of you kind of discover at the end that I'm doing it for a reason.
Yes.
And that is definitely yes, as you alluded to. A little bit of alien stuff, maybe in the future of the series, but I also wanted to frame it in a way like, you know, what would we do if we were looking at another civilization like that? How would we approach it? You know, what would we do first? You know, would we just barge onto shore and, you know, say hi, or would we kind of observe a bit first? Would we kind of see what's going on? Would we help? Maybe subtly at first. Would we intervene at all? Would there be rules against that? Maybe. I asked myself a lot of these questions, and then, I definitely did go down a few rabbit holes as I was getting into the meat of this story. And you'll discover just how important that is to the overall story arc at the end of book 2.
Okay, awesome. When I'm reading the book and I get to the chapter where he's got the idol that he's delivering, I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm into that. I like that. All right.
Yeah.
Like hypothesizing who they might be and who made them. And there's rumor. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm into that.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Hinting at that like right early on in the book, and then you're like, oh, there's more. Okay.
Yeah, you get just a subtle glimpse of it in book 1. Book 2, you're going to start to get some answers, and then over the course of the 7-book series, we're going to get weird. We're going to start getting into some creation theories. We're going to start getting into some we'll call them higher power theories. We're going to get into some. We're going to go deep.
I'm into that. So this is where it's good. Field's not here because he's not that into that. He's gonna be like, Butler, of course you're going down there.
We got to bring him in. That's
right. I wrote the questions at the end of our question list too, because I was like, he's not going to read all the way down the questions I wrote, so he's not going to see that I wrote these. But that's really awesome because I was curious when I'm reading. I'm like, I bet he knows some stuff. I bet he's looked into this stuff too. Vitalerium, obviously, like I'm a big Star Trek guy too. Is Vitalerium inspired at all by dilithium? Blue crystal, shiny. I was like, oh, come on, it's got to be dilithium, right?
You know what? Funny enough, it wasn't. It wasn't. I was a Star Wars fan probably first. My father had the original trilogy on VHS that I used to watch as a kid, and I dabbled in Star Trek, but not to the extent where I started learning about all the different elements of the Star Trek
what
universe.
Makes it tick?
I didn't, like, someone told me at the first convention I went to about dilithium crystals, and I was like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like that. And then they explained it to me. I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's kind of like that. But the unique thing about Vitalerium is that even after 700 years of utilization, of testing, experimentation, there is still so much we don't understand about this. And a lot of it has to do with what we don't know, which is all tied into what we were just talking about. And I don't want to give away much more than that, but like, for instance, we don't even know the true source of Vitalerium. We know that so they discover the quote unquote source, but it is basically expelled intermittently from this strange spatial anomaly, which is near planet Diorum. Mm-hmm. And it's like a fracture in space-time. And every so often, Vitalerium meteorites are expelled from this strange anomaly. But what I haven't written about quite yet, and you will begin to discover as I talk more about it, is we don't know what's on the other side. We don't know what the real source of this is. We've sent probes in, manned, unmanned, and nothing has come back. Only Vitalerium has. And so it's a little bit of a mystery still, but it will be elaborated on in the future.
That's pretty cool. I liked the Vitalerium because I always like when there's science behind the science fiction, but there's something there's still like it's never fun in sci-fi when everyone's got it all figured out. It's always nice when there's a mystery to still explore. Like humanity having everything figured out is not fun. So when you have a greatly advanced civilization like you present, to have like we still don't know what that is either. Like almost like a reason for humanity to still be exploring and figuring things out.
Exactly. Exactly. That it adds an element of mystery and something. It leaves something to be wanted, something to be understood, and that oftentimes creates a lot of good opportunities for adventure.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing I noticed in your book is, there's a lot of political themes, which I think you alluded to when you were talking about the summary of the book. Is that going to carry on? Because a lot of it felt very prescient with today. Is that something that's also obviously going to carry on throughout the series as well? We're going to see a lot more of that.
Oh, definitely. One of the things that we're going to start to do as we get into later books is I mentioned that there's 7 planets in the colonized Milky Way.
Yes.
Well, we're going to start to visit some of those planets, and we're going to get to see, what does life look like on those planets? And you're going to get to see different government structures. You're going to get to see different societal makeups, and the good side of those and the bad side of those, and what all of that looks like. And we're going to do a fair bit of exploring. My whole goal with this, when I enjoy a little bit of political intrigue, I think it's interesting. I think it adds an extra layer to some of the events that are going on in terms of trying to create like a realistic environment. And I feel like my goal here was to kind of show the good and the bad side of both teams in terms of, the quote unquote, the good characters and the bad characters, the good sides of the good characters, the bad sides of the good characters, and just the same for the opposite, for the antagonists. Like you get to meet some people who work, even who are in positions of power within the Coalition for Prosperity, which is, for all intents, I mean, it's a totalitarian government. But you get to see that some people are, still retain their humanity in that. And maybe they're just kind of brought up in the system, or maybe they're just doing a job. And then there are some people who are completely overtaken by, the system, and they really, they turn quite bad. The goal of that was not to get like partisan with anything, because I feel like we're too polarized as it is right now.
Sure.
My goal with that was to really just kind of explore the human condition and what does that look like in a futuristic society.
Yeah, I got it was like some of the chapters give off a little bit of like Andor vibes, like season 2. But one thing I liked the way you handle a lot of that is you're right that there's little bits of good and bad in each political figure that you represent in this book, and like the gray characters who are just kind of like, my hands are tied, or I kind of agree with you, but also there's this part of it. Like early on in the book, I can't remember what chapter, they're discussing one of the bills, and some characters you're right that it's not good, but also there's some stuff that's good for my people, so I gotta go along with it. And I like that you add that in, that it's not just like one bad thing in this bill. It's like there's good in here too, or that a lot of people are going to like, but also maybe overall not great, but a little good. And I think that's like you talk about, like the human condition and being honest and partisan, like not just never any like complete bad or complete good in any side of an argument. And I think that's really well represented in the book and quite early on too.
Yeah. It's no character is perfect. That's every character you come across in this book pretty much has a pretty glaring flaw at some point.
I mean, I think like teenage Roman at the very beginning is pretty idealistic, but then it just all goes down. The one of the worst characters actually ends up being like, at the start, he was like the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, later in the book, there's a scene where Roman is literally torturing someone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wild ride. It's definitely a wild ride.
One of the things in the book I really liked early on is like the chapter skip, but you show Roman growing up, which also felt kind of like not like in a cheesy way, but like the Disney movies where you follow a character as they grow up, almost like Lion King. Was that something like you wrote Roman and you're like, he's too hard of a bastard. Let me kind of give a couple chapters leading up to that so that I can show the turn? Or did you always know you were going to do that with him? That
was twofold. When I was planning the characters, I definitely realized early on that if I was going to be writing this kind of hardened freelancer, this mercenary, basically, how does he get to that point? How does he get to a point where he's basically this, lost soul floating through life, spending money on booze and hookers to forget? Yeah. and I said, all right, well, maybe I need to give a glimpse. And so I started with Roman as kind of like a teenager, like a young teenager. And I wanted to show like, how does someone get to that kind of that state? And how do I make this real? How do I show his motivations? How do I show that despite the fact that he's become this kind of, tough as nails kind of,
he's bastard.
Yeah. I mean, how do I show that he still has some sort of moral compass? And that maybe it's been on the back burner for some time, but there are some leadership qualities that he has that have also been kind of put to the back burner for a while.
Oh, the orphanage scene. You can tell, like, he's got potential.
Yeah. Because you can kind of clearly see as a young kid that he's got a little bit of talent. He's a smart kid. Maybe a little bigger than the others. And then you see how that develops kind of by necessity when he's in the orphanage. Yeah. And then you see, kind of where that goes down the line. And you discover a little bit about what happens. You get glimpses of what happens in between his interactions with the Wibitani, which he was once a part of. And yeah, that was my way of making a really fleshed out protagonist for the series. But B, it was also, I wanted to show kind of the brutality of the society that they live in, or the potential for brutality that the society has. And that was my way of kind of meshing the two in, kind of the best way I could. The two kind of fit together. I was able to show like, hey, life is good one day, and then suddenly everything is gone. Then, but then also, create a good backstory.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to open the book as well, because you get to see more of the world through like a young person's eyes. And he's flying through the city. He's getting into the shop that his dad runs. You get the orphanage. You get a little bit of everything. Not everything, but you do a great, like, after the opening world building chapter, you get a good sense of this world that Roman's in before now we're dealing with Roman as an adult. And I think that was really cool and really lets you know the character. I think those kind of scenes aren't really done in books very often. And I think it was cool to see. Usually it's in like one long-winded conversation you get later on, halfway through the book, where the character screams, "You want to know why I'm this way? Let me tell you." And it's like, you avoid that by actually like showing it. I'm like, all right, I don't need that long-winded monologue where he's spitting at a spittoon going, "I had it rough."
Yeah. And thank you, by the way. I wanted to kind of put readers in the front seat and basically make them a fly on the wall, seeing everything that could happen, everything that is happening as it's happening.
Right.
Because you're basically, for the full story arc, you're following the emergence of like a future mythological hero. I know you mentioned, mythology and ancient civilizations and all that kind of stuff earlier. I love that kind of stuff. And I know that, history typically is very, very bloody, and it's usually not as glorious as it's made out to be in the history books. And so I wanted to show kind of the gritty truth of all of the events that are leading to all of these historical things that are about to happen.
So without the sudden appearance of Vitalerium or something, well, you mentioned that they're working on the Alcubierre drive, obviously, and hopefully they get that working with just some negative energy. Where do you see the future, half a millennia from now? Where do you see it without a magical crystal guiding us? Where do you see our civilization headed?
You said half a century from now?
Or half a millennia from now.
Half a millennia from now. All right.
A far future civil. How do you see it without the Vitalerium? Or do you see us kind of achieving something where we get kind of similar results just from our own ingenuity? Or worse, we're just not here.
I think it's highly dependent upon how the next 50 years goes. If governments are the ones who kind of, gain control of this type of expanse, we're going to see very limited access to these types of things. This type of travel, this type of capability for expanse. I think I think that, has its own drawbacks and potential benefits. Obviously, a controlled expanse is going to be just that. It's going to be controlled. And if it's something that is more, made more widely accessible, I think it's something where we're going to be dealing with a pretty serious new Wild West. I mean, the capability for a civilization to travel faster than light, I mean, it opens itself up to a lot of different things, to break out civilizations. I mean, there could be a cult that starts their own planet, and everyone on that planet is in the cult, and that's a kind of a scary potential thought. Although cults usually never
turn out well.
Their story usually never ends out well in the end. Funny enough, I've been planning a little bit of a segment for book 3, where we will see what happens when something like that happens.
Ooh, okay.
When a little breakout civilization gets a bit culty. I mean, it opens itself to a lot of good, but it also opens itself to a lot of the bad. But I mean, if you think about it, Manifest Destiny, or just like the expansion west, and how crazy everything was as everyone was going. It was the Wild West. It was lawless. And there was a lot of, it was fast progress, but it was certainly murky. To say the least. But I don't know. I guess I could kind of see it going two ways, and I think it's going to be dependent upon who has the ability to either put the bottleneck on it or not. Personally, I would like to see a day when I could go to the moon or go to some other planet. I mean, I think that would be amazing. But
me too.
I don't know if that'll happen in my lifetime. Unless Dr. David Sinclair's work starts pulling through and he makes everyone live forever. But other than that, I don't know. I could foresee the bottleneck theory being more plausible, and seeing a lot of the governments that are set up on whatever, areas we colonize become very, very, not militant, but like militarized, like a very militarized type of society, a very regimented type of authoritarian society, to basically foster control throughout the expanse. You want to talk movies? Think about Starship Troopers. That's basically a glimpse into like a fascist Earth.
Yeah, absolutely.
and one of my favorite movies, sci-fi movies of all time, by the way. That was a great movie. But I mean, that there are subtle undertones, or not so subtle actually, of the propaganda, what is it? Service guarantees citizenship.
Yep,
And
I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta earn your citizenship.
Yeah, all that, and it's a very that was ahead of its time. I liked that. I liked that movie a lot. That was a good one.
I always say if it came out 15 years later, that movie would have not that it didn't do well, but it would have done. People would be quoting it all the time. No one wouldn't know that movie. It's just a little too ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of questions and we're over an hour here. Do you have anything else you want to add about Vitalerium or what's coming up or what's next for you? Do you know when book 2's coming out, or do you know the release date of any of the other projects?
Book 2 will be out this year.
Awesome.
Yep. So that's coming. I'll definitely have a defined date relatively soon. Upcoming, I'm going to be at MegaCon in Florida. That's in Orlando. It's one of the biggest in the country. I think they had 170,000 attendees last year. So we're gonna have a big booth there. I actually just upgraded the booth. So for any of you out there who are going to MegaCon, make sure to stop by the Vitalerium booth. We're gonna put on a show for you. Yeah, I should have probably 2 to 3 more comics in the series out this year as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So I got my copy right here. But it's also available digital. It's available anywhere you get your books, or just specific places?
Oh yeah, no, you can get it anywhere. It's on Amazon.com. It's on BarnesandNoble.com, Books A Million. You can get it on my website, Vitaleriumseries.com. And then if anyone wants to find out about new updates, you can find me on basically any social media under the sun. It's just at Vitalerium Series. Except for X, it's at Vitalerium. There was too many characters to do at Vitalerium Series on X. But
awesome. And if you're on any platform, we'll probably have all those links for you down below or even on the screen right here. Awesome. Yeah, pick up the copy right now. Where can we get the comics?
Comics are on my website, Vitaleriumseries.com.
Right. Sweet. Make sure you check all that out. Go to the Comic-Cons, check it out, read the book. Vitalerium. Once they come out, watch the series, play the games. I mean, this is a whole universe right here, which is pretty good. Are we going to get more artwork in book 2? Because I really enjoyed the all the symbols, the map. Like Michael Crichton used to do that, and it was one of my favorite parts of those books growing up. So I appreciated that you had it there.
There's going to be a lot more in book 2. Absolutely.
Awesome. So Nick, great talking to you again. Pick up Vitalerium, wherever, and. This has been a great time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thanks for having me.